Hello everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry. We catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review, and we play local, unsigned and or independent music. As always, you can reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. I'm always keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s to share, etc. You can also find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And for this week's entry into the Rhylight Zone, we're going to be listening to the final concluding part of a short story called Fat by myself, Dane Cobain. This is in a short story collection called Scarlet Sins. Fat by Dane Cobain. When Mike's visitor came back again that evening, and when he called for his wife to help him, he didn't expect her to respond, but she did. By the time that she made it through to Mike's room, the alien had disappeared again, but Mike's eyes were still full of terror. Jane's eyes were full of fury. "God damn it, Mike," she shouted. "I'm sick to death of this rubbish." "But," he stammered, "we'll go and stay with my mother, at least for now. Don't you see what you're doing to me? What you're doing to your daughter?" "But how am I supposed to look after myself?" "You'll have to figure something out," Jane snapped. "I mean it, Mike. Use that vivid imagination of yours." And with that, she turned on her heel and walked out of the room. He could hear clangs and thuds from the rest of the house, followed by the disoriented voice of his daughter. Then the front door opened and closed, and he heard a screech of rubber and the crunching of gravel as a car drove away. He looked at the red LEDs on the clock on his bedside table. It was 3:17 AM, and his wife had left him alone in the dark. His daughter had gone without even saying goodbye. All through the following day he lived in hope. His ears picked up on every little sound, and he expected his wife to walk back in at any time, to beg for forgiveness and to sit with him through the night until the alien reappeared and he could prove to her that he wasn't making it up. But Jane didn't come, and later that night, when the apparition paid him one final visit, he lost his temper. "What do you want from me?" Mike screamed. The visitor didn't reply. It just continued to stare at him impassively. "You've ruined my life. My wife left me because of you, you overgrown alien muncher. So go on then, do it, let's end it, let's get it over with, put me out of my misery, do it, damn you, do it." But the alien did nothing of the sort, and so Mike took matters into his own hands. He rocked back and forth in the reinforced bed, rejigged his massive haunches, and slowly swung one of his legs off the mattress and onto the floor. Then he pushed himself up, slowly at first, and then with a little more confidence. He swung his other foot onto the floor and set it down with a hollow thud. He was sitting up unsupported for the first time in 4 years, and boy, did it feel good. And he wasn't finished. Mike used his massive hands to support himself on the reinforced bed and slowly pushed off until he was standing upright. It hurt, and it set his heart racing and left him short of breath, but to his amazement, he didn't fall back down. The visitor smiled, exposing a mouthful of misshapen fangs that were stained a mottled brown. It waved slowly at Mike, a movement he could only half make out in the darkness of the room. Then it opened the window, climbed carefully out into the garden, and was gone. Mike Walker took another tentative step, followed by another and then another, until he'd made it through his bedroom door and out into the hallway. He was surprised to find that he could fit through the doorway, another sign that he'd lost some weight. He rested against the wall to catch his breath and then hobbled over to the coat stand, where he found his old walking stick. It fit into the palm of his hand like an old friend, and it took just enough of his weight to support him as he slowly let himself out through the front door and into the cool night air. He started out along the quiet suburban street, keeping his eyes peeled for passing cars. He stuck his thumb out at the first one he saw, but the driver ignored him. The second one drove past a couple of minutes later, slowed down as it approached him, and then sped off when the driver saw how big he was. But the third car, a Peugeot 306, slowed to a stop. Mike didn't notice that it was Dr. Kufieta in the driver's seat until after he'd managed to squeeze himself into the back of the vehicle. The good doctor had to tilt the passenger seat as far forward as it would go, and Mike was reminded of how the Cycrolutus Mercedes would look if it was squeezed into a goldfish bowl. He was trying to remove a seatbelt from his sizable ass crack when he realised who the driver was. The doctor asked him where he wanted to go, and Mike gave him his wife's parents' address before launching into a long explanation of what had happened since the two people last saw each other. Kufieta listened politely and drove with both hands on the steering wheel. When Mike was finished, the doctor had nothing to say except remarkable. Kufieta dropped Mike off at his destination and then watched from the driver's seat as he hobbled over to the front door. The house was dark to begin with, but when Mike rang the doorbell, it erupted in a flurry of light. Jane answered the door in a black dressing gown. She stared at her husband, who was still standing and putting so much weight on his walking stick that it looked ready to break. Then she wrapped him in a hug, or at least she hugged as much of him as she could manage, and stepped aside so he could enter the house. Dr. Kufieta watched him go and smiled. Dr. Kufieta drove home in silence, deep in thought as he cruised beneath the streetlights. When he finally got home, he treated himself to a rare glass of whiskey and updated Mike's case file. Then he went back to his car, popped the trunk, and removed his alien costume. He folded it up gently and placed it at the back of his wardrobe, then gingerly laid the mask on top of it. He hoped he'd never have to use it again. Dr. Kufieta slept soundly that night, as he always did, and when the sun rose on a new day, he climbed back into his 306 and drove to the clinic. He had more lives to save. That was the final part of Fact by Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain, and this is Broken Colours with Mirrors.
I tell people look on the bright side while I'm inside the dark. I tell people to be strong even when times are hard. I bury myself, I wanna submerge. I'm dishing out advice while I'm sat out on the curb. I bury myself, I wanna submerge. Whoa, it's my time to look in the mirror and to change my errant ways. It's time that I fix relationships over time that I've prayed. It's time to enjoy life again. It's time to let you in. It's time that I should be happy. It's time to love again. It's my book and it's my story. It's my time and it's my glory. The future is for the taking. It's in the palm of your hands, and only you can find it in these derelict lands. Oh, it's my time to look in the mirror and to change my errant ways. It's time that I fix relationships over time that I've prayed. It's time to enjoy life again. It's time to let you in. It's time that I should be happy. It's time to love again. 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 It's my time to look in the mirror and to change my errant ways. It's time that I fix relationships over time that I've frayed. It's time to enjoy life again. It's time to let you in. It's time that I should be happy. It's time to love again. You should have jumped. 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 You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of me. You should have jumped. You should have gotten outside in the street. You should have jumped. You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of we. You should have jumped. You should have gotten outside. Slide on the slide where you keep it in mind for the weekend break when the passenger says enough. But we don't, we go faster, playing it safe. Spot the fools we're shooting off the cuff. Stop when the sheet has had enough. But we don't, we lambast. You should have been here when we were swinging in the rough. Well then you know, you should have jumped. You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of me. You should have jumped. You should have gotten outside in the street. You should have jumped. You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of me. You should have jumped. Outside, slide on the slide where to keep it in mind for the weekend break when the passenger says enough. But going faster, playing it safe while the fools were shooting off the cuff. Oh, 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 we can stop when she has had enough, but we don't, we land faster. Should have been there when we were swinging in the rough. But who needs the fairways? No, no. But then you know, oh, 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 you should have jumped. You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of me. You should have jumped. You should have gotten outside. Gotten outside in the street. You should have jumped. You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of the week. You should have jumped. You should have gotten outside. Slide on the slide where you keep it in mind for the screaming consciences. Remind me that there's always so much fear of being alone. Only one chance left. Release me from the cliff I'm going down. What are you rehearsing for, my darling? What are you rehearsing for? What are you rehearsing for, little darling? What are you rehearsing for? We can break when the passenger says enough, but we don't. We go faster, playing it safe while the fools were shooting off the cuff. Oh, 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 we can stop when she has had enough, but we don't. We land faster. You should have been here when we were swinging in the rough. Who needs the fairways? No, no. It's much more fun than the fairways. No, no, no. Well, then you know, oh, 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 you should have jumped. You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of me. You should have jumped. You should have gotten outside in the streets. You should have jumped. You shouldn't have stayed inside. Staying inside's part of the week. You should have jumped. You should have gotten outside. Slide on the slide where you keep it in mind for the. What are you rehearsing for, my darling? What are you rehearsing for? Say, what are you rehearsing for, my darling? What are you rehearsing for? Oh, 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 you should have jumped.
That was You Should Have Jumped by Maz Manzini, and before that we had Mirrors by Broken Colours. And this week we are joined in conversation by Cub Coffee. Cub Coffee, a vegan coffee place. You may have checked them out at Frogfest. I know I did. The first question, you may or may not have an answer to this one. This is like my traditional opening question. Doesn't have too much to do with coffee, other than that maybe coffee goes well with it. It's what was the last book that you read, and what did you think of it?
Oh my goodness me. What was the last book I read? Do you know, it was a holiday read actually. So I like to choose something a bit light on holiday. It was the is it the Seven Husbands of
Yeah.
Evelyn
Hugo. Yeah.
You know what? And I looked round the pool and every single person around the pool was reading the same book.
Nice.
And they were all pretty much at the same pace as well. So yeah, I did an English degree, so I like to choose something quite light when I'm on holiday rather than something heavy.
Yeah. How was it though? Was it good?
Good, I recommend it. Have you read it?
No, so I want to though. I think the author who did that is it Taylor Jenkins Reid, I think, did it.
No, I
I
can't remember.
think.
But I think they're making it into a TV series. Or
Yeah,
a movie,
yeah. Well,
something like that.
I think the author who did that, she did another one, and now I can't remember what that was called. It was called Daisy Jones and the Six, I think, and it was like a fictional band.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
so
Yeah, they made
yeah,
that
so
season.
I've read that, but I haven't read Evelyn Hugo. But that one came first, so I really should read that at some point soon.
Yeah, it was good. Read it.
Awesome, cool. So obviously I want to chat to you about Cub Coffee. I wondered if you could get started by letting us know what is Cub Coffee.
Okay, so we are a vegan, really nicely converted horse box that travels around the UK, serving vegans and non-vegans alike delicious beverages. Not all coffee-based, some are very different. And yeah, just to kind of spread the word about veganism and how yummy vegan drinks can be, and to get people to try a different milk alternative if they haven't. So it kind of started as a bit of a social enterprise, really,
Hmm.
and it started quite local. And now I kind of scale the country, really, to be honest. So yeah, that's us.
Cool, awesome. And so, I mean, I did want to ask, so are you vegan yourself? And if so, what's behind that decision?
I am a vegan. I've been vegan for 3.5 years now, and I was veggie before then. And to be
Hmm.
honest, even when I was a meat eater, I wasn't really a fan of actually being a meat eater. My mum tried to raise me veggie from being very, very young. And the day we went veggie, my partner and I, we watched The Game Changers on Netflix,
Hmm.
if you've seen it.
Yeah, I
That
have, yeah.
we literally looked at each other and went, well, that's us veggie now, isn't it? To the point where I think I had a meat bolognese in the fridge, and from that moment I just was like, no, I can't have this anymore. And then a couple of months after that, I mean, I ditched dairy ages ago, so I ditched dairy many, many years ago. And the kind of thing, the only thing I was eating was eggs. And I just thought,
Mm,
well, I can give up eggs.
yeah,
It's really not much of a sacrifice. And here we are. Yeah, with a vegan
awesome.
business as well. Yeah.
Cool. And where does the name come from?
Oh, it's a bit of a corny one if you're happy to hear the corny story. My other
Always.
half, his nickname is Bear, and he
Mm,
makes really good coffee at home. So we kind of called it Bear Bucks, like Starbucks. And then
yeah.
I originally wanted to call the business Barista,
Hmm.
but Starbucks own that name in the whole of Europe, and I definitely didn't want to get into a legal battle with them. So it became Cub, and here we are.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, great. So how did you like get started with the business? You mentioned it's the converted horse box. So I mean, how did the idea even to use a converted horse box come about?
Honest, we've looked at so many different iterations of the business. In the early days, we didn't know which route we were going to take. I knew I wanted to start my own business, and my other
Hmm.
half told me to write a list of 5 things that I love, and coffee was number one. So and I kind of looked around and I was like, oh, okay. And I think I'd been to the vegan market in High Wycombe actually as a
Hmm.
customer, and thought, this is really fantastic, but there's no coffee here that is completely vegan. And then I did a little bit more research, and we were originally going to convert a camper van, and I looked into that, and it was quite expensive. And if they break down, the parts were very expensive. So it kind of was just like a rolling thing where one idea became another, became another. And then I found this perfect person who I could get to convert the trailer. And when I messaged her on WhatsApp, her image was go vegan. And I
Yeah.
just thought, oh my God, I have to use this person to convert the trailer. And that's how it came. We went to see her essentially, and we had a chat. And she said, this is the best route you can go. And that's, yeah, where we are now.
Awesome. It's funny you mentioned that because obviously talking about the vegan market in Wickham, which is, a great local resource. They do it all over the country as well, don't they? So
Yeah.
they just every now and then they stop by Wickham on like their national tour. I guess a bit like yourself now that you've expanded a bit more. Um
Yeah.
but when so my partner and I, we went to vegan camp out this year. It was her first time and my second time. And one of the big complaints, or I say, big complaints, it's not as though there's loads of complaints about it or anything, but there wasn't that many there weren't that many stores doing coffee. I think there was like two maybe, and the lines were always massive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard.
yeah. So it's not just the vegan market that's missing out on that, but even the ones that did do coffee, they were generally, again, it was like a juice bar or something, and they offer coffee, but they weren't like a coffee specialist.
Yeah, and I heard that I might be wrong here, but one of them was like a roastery rather than an actual coffee. So when you're
Yeah,
churning drinks at a festival, you need to be able to bring them out at a really high pace.
yeah,
And if you're not prepared for that, it can feel like a lot. And when I did my first festival, it was madness. And
yeah,
obviously now I've had a lot of practice, but a lot of these companies are not quite prepared for the amount of people. And everybody wants coffee.
yeah,
Every wake up in
yeah.
the morning, he wants a cup of coffee. So Yeah, food you only
Yeah.
have your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, but how many cups of coffee can you have in the day? You
That's
know, so
that's it, yeah. And even like, because I know from last year's event, I know they were a little disappointed with how much they made on the bars, because I guess it turned out people weren't drinking as much as they were expecting them to. But they was probably
really,
because they were going towards coffee. But last year there were loads of coffee places, so it's kind of gone the other way around this year.
oh
Um,
well,
but
out if you're listening, I'm available.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, I'll message them on Instagram and be like, you know who you should get. There was, funnily enough, there was one nice coffee place. The only cup of coffee I had while I was there was as we were leaving, like right by the entrance. There was one there because people had like day tickets, and I think it was down by like the family camping. And there was a coffee place there, and like the coffee was okay. What was really cool is they'd got a lot of like pain au chocolat and stuff like that, and obviously all of that was vegan. So there were a lot of really
Yeah,
nice vegan pastries, but by that point, literally, it was when we packed up the tent and we're leaving, and it was like, well, it's a bit late now, So
yeah.
yeah, hopefully you'll be there next year.
Fingers crossed. I'm already looking at festivals for next year, planning.
Yeah,
So yeah, my 2024 calendar arrived today. That's quite scary,
awesome.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll
Well,
see what I can do.
and you mentioned just before we started the interview that you've just finished your last festival of the season. So can you give us a kind of a recap of this year's festival season for you, where you've been?
I definitely can. So for me, my niche is kind of wellness festivals and yoga festivals. I feel
Hmm.
really do well there, and I try to stay as local as possible. Obviously it keeps costs down as well, with not if traveling too far or putting
Hmm.
accommodation up. I'm not a camper, I'm not gonna lie. So we started our festival season with Fern Cotton's Happy Place. I don't know if you've heard of her podcast. It's a fantastic podcast on wellness and mindset and mental health. I mean, they absolutely cover everything. So that was a wonderful festival. There were yoga tents, meditation tents. There were people doing Reiki healing. There were talks. There was music. All the food was veggie and vegan. And there were lots of lovely stalls as well. So that was at Chiswick House. So that was a brilliant start. And FernCon was awesome and came around to speak to all the traders. And she was just the nicest human ever. And then after that, I did a small yoga festival in Henley, well, just outside of Henley, called Oshala, which wasn't a massive amount of people, but a really lovely community.
Hmm.
She's actually Marlow based as well, so all local to this area. And after that, I did the World Yoga Festival, which was in Henley. And that's a big 5-day event. That's a huge one. People travel from all over the world for that. Honestly, it's an amazing event. And I just finished off with the Farm Animal Sanctuary Freedom Festival. So a sanctuary that I work very closely with. They are desperately trying to buy their land for all their animals to live on. They have over 600 animals, and their landlord is selling the land, so they're trying to raise enough
Right.
money. So we do this annual event, and they also have sheep overs. Fantastic name. You can see brilliant. And they had all vegan traders there, and music and talks, and yeah, it was glorious. Absolutely love it there. My heart is so happy there. So yeah, and that was it. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but oh my goodness me, feels like a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. I mean, just going to a festival, you're exhausted after
Yeah,
just attending one. So, working one, I can't
yeah.
imagine. I'm glad I've never had to do it personally.
Well,
Uh,
I'm a one-woman band, and I do
yeah,
rope in lots of family members to come and help out, and the vegan food and drink trader community is so
yeah,
lovely. But yeah, it's a lot for me on my own,
yeah.
definitely.
Cool. So, what have you got planned sort of for the rest of the year?
So I'm having a week off, which is wonderful. I'm very chuffed about that. And then come September, we're back into the normal schedule of vegan market. So I work with lots of different companies. And also we've got Reading Vegan Festival coming up on the 16th of September. So that's always a fantastic day out. I think you've been before, so you know all about that one. And then, yeah, just back to the regular schedule and focusing on the next step for Cub Coffee come January time, which is very exciting. So hopefully there may be Cub 2.0 coming very
Awesome.
soon. Yeah.
Awesome. Can you give us any teasers about that, or is that all very, very hush
Well,
hush?
it's very, very early stages. But yes, there will be more. That's all I can say. There will be
Awesome.
more.
Cool. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm here in conversation with a team from Cub Coffee. And this is Without My Addiction with olanzapine. That was olanzapine by Without My Addiction. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM, and I'm rejoining conversation now by Cub Coffee. And, you know, you mentioned earlier, it's not just coffee that you do. So what are some of the different sort of signature drinks that you've got on offer?
Okay, so my best seller by far is my Biscoff latte. That can come hot or cold with your choice of milk, which is oat, almond, soy, or coconut. Comes with a fantastic vegan squirty cream on the top, which is to die for. And we also do things like Nutella, so obviously vegan Nutella latte, Oreo lattes, and then we go down a slightly different route with pink power lattes, beetroot and strawberry. My personal favorite, a lavender latte or a rose latte, really, really good. Obviously, you can still have all your plain, regular hot chocolate latte, mocha, and stuff for the kids like strawberries and cream, mango and cream, chocolate and cream. But to be honest, I'm quite happy for people to come up and say, can you do this, but can you add that and make this? And that's how some of my drinks like pistachio mocha came on the menu, you know, customers recommending little things, you know, different tastes and different flavors, and always ends up creating quite an interesting drink.
Awesome. And I wanted to ask you about the Biscoff, because you know I'm a huge fan of that as well. So how much Biscoff do you get through? And also, do you use it yourself for anything other than coffees?
So in terms of making my coffees, my rule is measure with your heart. I'd like to tell you that it's a tiny amount that goes in. It's not. The jars I use, I think they're 1.6 kilogram. A good weekend, I probably use about 6 of those jars.
Nice.
It's a lot. And this might shock you, but I'm not a fan of Biscoff. too much for me. I think I prefer the Nutella, the vegan Nutella.
Yeah,
But having said that, Biscoff on a little bit of porridge, maybe overnight oats, I could probably get behind that. Yeah. But it is
yeah.
quite decadent. A lot.
It is, yeah, it is for sure. Well, and it's funny because it seems to be the default as well. Uh, like if you go to, when there's a vegan market in town, for example, any one of them that's got, like any kind of baked goods, they're gonna have like a Biscoff brownie. Like all of them do it.
100%. I feel like because it's one of those accidentally vegan things, all the vegans have rallied behind it because they're
Yeah,
just so happy and they don't want them to change the recipe or
yeah,
go back. Some people do that, don't they? Was it
yeah,
Bourneville recently put the milk back into their chocolate, which was
yeah,
devastating. But yeah, everything Biscoff. I thought it was a fad, Biscoff, but it doesn't
yeah.
seem to have died down, does it?
No, no, and I'm glad because I love it. So cool. Okay, so what would you say? What makes a good cup of coffee?
What makes a good cup of coffee? That is a really, really good question because everybody has very, very different tastes. For me, I like a medium roast. It has to be with oat milk and it can't be too hot. Those all sound very, very basic, but the moment you give me a really hot coffee, I'm instantly put off. But it depends on your personal taste, whatever you prefer. I mean, in terms of the business, you have to make sure your beans are dialed in really well. You take time to, a lot of people might just think, oh, you just throw the beans in, grind it, get some coffee out. It is not quite as simple as that. There is an art and there are lots and lots of YouTube videos you can watch if you want to learn. But for me, so long as it's not too hot, so long as the milk's been textured nicely and it's oat milk, I'm there because I'm a coffee fanatic.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, cool. So how important is it to you to have a vegan coffee company? I mean, I guess again, as you said, when you looked at the vegan market, it was a niche that needed filling. But how
Yeah.
important do you think it is for companies like yours to be out there?
So, I mean, when I began, I had a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're missing a huge market. There's going to be people coming up and demanding cow's milk, and what are you going to do? You're turning people away." And in my mind, I never thought like that because I think if I walked up somewhere and realized that it was completely vegan, I'd be like, "Yes, this is
Mm,
amazing." I think it is important. It's important because a lot of my customers are not vegan. I have vegan in my logo and I have a plant-based sign, but to be honest, if you walk past the trader, you wouldn't
yeah,
instinctively think
yeah,
it's vegan. I did that on purpose because I want to get those people who go, because I say, "Have you tried oat milk?" And they go, "Oh,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, don't like it, not nice." I just know they've never tried it. So
yeah,
for me, I would rather make them a free drink and say, "Taste it, give me your honest opinion," because out of all the people I've made an oat milk latte for that they've never had it before, I have never once had anybody say, "Oh, that's horrible."
yeah,
And I have a lot of people who have come back to me to say, "Oh my God, I love that. And I'm going to buy oat milk from now. Which brand do you recommend? Where can I get it from?" And that is why I started the business because I just wanted to try and inspire a little bit of social change and
yeah,
also to change people's minds, particularly those people who are stuck in a certain way about veganism and yeah, it's not for me and vegans are preachy and that's why I try
yeah,
and be quite happy about it. But yeah, I wish I'd kept a tally from the beginning of the amount of people I've converted to oat milk. I really
yeah.
wish. I mean, it's kind of hard to keep track of, but yeah, one step at a time we might change the world.
Yeah, well, it's funny because so my girlfriend, when we started dating, she wasn't vegan or anything, and she
Really
came with me. She came with me to vegan camp out, and she's just been vegan since we got back from that.
amazing.
In part because by that point she was like, well, I've been vegan for like a week already, and she just had all this amazing food at the camp out.
Yeah.
I've always cooked vegan for both of us, and she's always been, like, okay, that's fine, I don't mind, I'll eat whatever. But she was kind of the same with milks to begin with. She didn't really like any of them. And
Mm,
now she's like, even to the point of like she doesn't like nuts. She doesn't like anything with nuts in, but
okay.
she'll happily have almond milk now.
Well, that's
She's found
interesting.
she quite likes almond milk. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm oat milk is what I go for, and I think part of it is because I read somewhere as well. It's like it's the most sustainable because it requires the least amount of water to grow the oats.
That's
So I
right.
think that's why I started going for oat milk, and then I just kind of got used to it. But funnily
Yeah.
enough, I've got coming to me soon. It's been advertised to me on like Instagram and Facebook. I think it's called the milk maker or something. It's like a milk making machine. So you put
like is it an almond cow?
It's not, but it's something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, and like literally, so you got the different recipes, and you just put in your oats and your water or whatever, and it will like freshly squeeze it for you.
So easy. And also, if you want it a little bit sweeter, just maybe put a date in there
Yeah,
and a tiny pinch of salt as well. And put it in your fridge, it will last. And
yeah,
that's what I say to people as well, because like, oh, oat milk is so expensive. And I'm like, if you buy a kilogram of oats, mix it with
yeah.
water, you're sorted.
That's it. It's super
not
cheap.
really
It's
that
crazy
hard.
cheap. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
and
they're
obviously,
gonna like how much is a kilogram of oats? Is like a couple of quid or something, and then,
yeah,
if that,
absolutely.
and then I end up eating it, with for my breakfast as well. So
Yeah, there you go. You see, it's a win-win.
yeah,
Win-win. But definitely
cool.
try it with
I
one
will.
date.
Yeah, yeah. I've used dates for like sweetening things like cakes before as well. So kind of got the idea. Yeah. Cool. So I got a few more questions that I want to cover with you. So one of them I want to talk, mentioning sustainability. How important is sustainability to what you do?
Well, look, I feel like veganism and sustainability and focusing on the environment go hand in hand, which is why when I set up this, it was so important to me that I researched the best compostable, recyclable, biodegradable, absolutely everything. So all my cold cups, my sleeves, well, all my cups, all my
Mm,
lids as well. You'll notice when you go to other cafes, they give you a paper cup and then they put a plastic lid on the top,
mm,
and I did not want that, so I even have the paper lids as well. Absolutely everything is compostable, it's all biodegradable, it's also all recyclable. They don't always go hand in hand, but yeah.
yeah.
And that, even down to my sugar packets and my stirrers, that was super important to me. We're very eco with our power as well, and I try and do, I mean, nobody is perfect,
Mm,
but definitely moving in the right direction. I'd love to be as sustainable as possible, and it is super important. The environment is important,
yeah.
so we have to take care of it. But yeah,
Awesome.
it was a really big factor. I couldn't do one thing without the other. I
Yeah,
had to have
yeah.
both ethics from the beginning.
Cool. Awesome. And so you've got your loyalty program. Can you just give us the lowdown on what your loyalty program is, what the offer is
Yeah,
there?
you get 10 bear claw stamps and a free coffee, which I amazingly had one person complete a whole one in a 2-day festival this weekend. So
Yeah,
that was
I can imagine that.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, easily done, right? So yeah, and people keep them forever. And also I'm pretty flexible. If you say I've forgotten it, I
Yeah.
have a new one. I trust you, don't worry. So yeah, that will hopefully keeps people coming back. And I love seeing those, because people have actually thought to bring them back, and
Yeah.
yeah, it makes me.
Yeah, cool. And last question, and you've kind of answered the half of this, but what's next for you, and where can people follow you to find out more and stay up to date?
Okay, so what's next? Back to the grind with vegan markets. Literally starting from the first weekend in September, my first day is at Marlow Market, actually. So that's very,
Hmm.
very close. We've got Reading Vegan Festival recently as well, which is also local. And then obviously working on, as I gave you a little sneak
Hmm.
preview, Cub 2.0, which is very, very exciting. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and my website. So Instagram is Cub Coffee UK, same on Facebook. And my website is cub-coffee.com. And I put all my schedule for as long as I can up there as well. So you will be able to see for the rest of the year where I will be.
Big thanks to Cub Coffee for joining me. You're listening to the Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. And this is Radio Generation with Gene Genie.
Small Genie snuck off to the city, strung out on lasers and slashed back blazers, and ate all your razors while pulling the waiters, talking about Monroe and walking on Snow White. New York's a go-go and everything tastes nice. Oh, little Greenie. Ooh. Genie lives on his back. Genie loves Jimmy Stacks. He's outrageous, he screams and he balls. Let yourself go. Sits like a man, but he smiles like a reptile. She loves him, but just for a short while. She's scratching the sand, won't let go of his hand. He says he's a beautician, sells you nutrition, and keeps all your dead hair for making up underwear. Poor little greenie. Ooh-hoo. Jimmy lives on his back. Jimmy loves Jimmy stacks. He's outrageous, he screams and he balls. Jimmy, let yourself go. So simple-minded, he can't drive his motor. Bites on the neon, sleeps in the capsule. Loves to be loved. Loves to be loved. Lives on his back. Jimmy loves Jimmy stacks. He's outrageous, he screams and he balls. Jimmy, let yourself go. Jimmy lives on his back. Jimmy loves Jimmy stacks. He's outrageous, he screams and he balls. Jimmy, let yourself go. You betcha.
We sleep by day, we work by night. In the flickering candlelight. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right. We just make shoes. We just make shoes. Our masters made us a suit so fair, a sock to the blisters and to the cuts that we bear, making them wealthy beyond compare. And still we make shoes. We just make shoes. Hush, my children, run and play. Your futures have been taken away. They've doubled our quotas, they've halved our pay. And still we make shoes. just make shoes. Our masters toast their finest hour. Our allies caved in to the trappings of power. Together they sit in an ivory tower, and still we make shoes. We just make shoes. Same greedy, different name. Vested interest, the name of the game. Class war has started, the poor get the blame, and still we make shoes. We just make shoes. We sleepwalk by day and we're passive by night. In the flickering candlelight, our spirits eroded, gone without fight, and still we make shoes. We just make shoes.
That was The Elves and the Shoemaker by Will Riding. Before that we had Gene Genie by Radio Generation. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to head over to the Oak Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
Måneskin, Rush. When I heard that an Italian rock band had won the Eurovision Song Contest, I needed to take a look, so I checked it out on YouTube. Being Eurovision, I presumed it was an act put together for the event. The song was energetic but did not seem to have a lot of content. It was well choreographed and looked camp in a typically Eurovision kind of way. It was good for Eurovision, but I was not expecting it to have any real world worth. Having searched on YouTube then gave me more clips by Måneskin. I started to see clips of them playing large festivals to enthusiastic crowds. Still, the songs were not great, but they worked well with just a power trio and singer. They moved around the stage like they owned it, playing to the audience like veterans. They seemed to like very simple chord structures, like their cover of the Four Seasons Begging, giving plenty of scope for musical interplay, with maximum posturing. But the thing is that they are sexy. There seems to be a cycle of sexiness in rock music. The flamboyant always gives way to the buttoned-up specky nerdy, but always returns to restart the cycle. Glam rock blew away the late 60s denim, corduroy and army surplus drab. You get Guns N' Roses all leather and posing. Then you get the contrived scruffiness of grunge. And Britpop with its everyday wear sports casual and zipped up parkas. I have not been paying much attention recently, but maybe Måneskin are a reaction to Ed Sheeran. The guys in the band have perfected the whole Ziggy Stardust androgyny thing. Their makeup artists are probably the most important part of the road crew. Victoria, the bass player, is the new Susie Quattro, though Quattro kept her leather jumpsuit zipped up, and the Måneskin bass player shows a lot more flesh. I could not fail to notice her outfit that has one breast exposed with only the nipple covered by what looks like gaffer tape, but I have tried not to let that influence my opinion of the music. They also give good interviews, like the mop-top Beatles comedic press encounters. If you watch the right interviews, you will learn how to pronounce their name. The basic Måneskin song, of which there are many on this album, has a Smells Like Teen Spirit Louie Louie or Seven Nation Army riff. The drums and bass are loud, and the bass has a full sound with some distortion to make it sound like dance music. The guitarist does whatever is needed, joining in the riff or choppy guitar work, and the occasional guitar hero solo. And the singer seems mostly to concentrate on sex and drugs and rock and roll. There is one song that features Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine playing some fast runs, and that thing he does sliding down the strings, playing through an octave pedal. Måneskin, Rush.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to A.B. Frank for his entry into the Rhylight Zone. Thank you to Julia Crow for being this week's guest. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. We are repeating on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. And what was the last thing? You can also email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune. This is Steph Willis with All In, and I'll catch you next week.
Lately, I've been thinking about you daily. Caught up in the heat of the night that you caught my eye. They called time and I said goodbye. Left us right there up in the distance, surrounded by the walls that I made just to keep me safe. But you walked right through my barricades. Call me up in the middle of the night, 'cause you can't wait till the morning light. You told me everything would be alright. You told me not to worry, no, not to worry. Be my peace, come be my savior, come be my world, my world. Oceans part won't stop us. Days turn to night and we're helpless. Go in the shadow, holding space between my fingers. I'll never leave. I'm all in. Yeah, now I'm falling over and over again. I'm closer. I made a promise that I would never cross that line, but I'm so far into you. Teach me how to really let you see me. I've been hurt, but I know that I'm not alone, 'cause you lit the light in my heart of stone. Call me up in the middle of the night, 'cause I can't wait till the morning light. You told me everything would be alright. You told me not to worry, no, not to worry. Be
staying sober and I'm still alive, and I don't know what I used to do. On all the long evenings, on all the wrong nights, trying to find out what I mean to you. And it goes like this: a thorn in her side and she's tired of this, 'cause it's insipid and mentally ill, and 'cause she stole the vows from my kids. Illusion, she's falling through time, picking up broken glass at closing time. She won't be forgotten like yesterday's news. She's soaking in lemon and lime, and I close my eyes, a feeling inside that I just can't describe. 'Cause I'm tired of talking, I'm tired of words, and I'm trying not to write lines that rhyme. And I'm feeling scared, and I don't know what I shouldn't do. Should I waste all my time while I ride on wrong nights? Should I break down and cry before you? And I feel like, but I'm starting to feel, so I'm dealing with it. And I don't want